Welcome to Market Like a Hotshot, live here, Framingham, Massachusetts. James Feudo. This is Jeff DeSocio, but James Feudo.
The heart of Metro West, as you like to call it.
The heart of the Metro West. It's like the beat, beat, beat of my heart here in Framingham. So, hey, we got, a lot of interesting things have happened in the past week.
Right.
And I think it's inspired our podcast for this week, for episode number 7, Lucky 7.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, so this week's topic is actually going to be how not to be a hotshot.
How not to be a hotshot.
So we're flipping the script a little this week, which will be fun.
So it's not to be negative here and all that.
Yeah.
We want to have a positive spin to this, but, a lot of activities have been happening in the last, 2 or 3 weeks out there in the world of social media.
Right.
Right? So what's your thoughts on
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a chuckle, but
right. I mean, the big news related to a lot of this is what happened at the Coldplay concert, which is only 30 miles from here at Patriots Place.
Yeah, Foxborough, home of the 6-time champion New England Patriots.
New England Patriots and the New England Revolution.
Yeah, don't forget about that soccer team. But.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing about that is just that it made a lot of news. There's memes created over it, and people lost their jobs, and there's been other issues that the two people involved have been dealing with. It's not for us to talk about people's personal lives, but from a marketing perspective, there's a bunch of lessons to be learned here. Don't you agree?
Definitely. But, on the positive side, before we get into those, is, Coldplay is the hottest band on Spotify right now.
Oh, interesting.
So sometimes it is a negative thing spins into a positive aspect for somebody. But,
right.
Man, we're going to be hearing Fix You and Viva La Vida, whatever it's called, for the next few weeks, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But, let's get into that a little bit.
Right. And then, there was a famous quote that there's no such thing as bad publicity. And for the company where the two people worked for, their traffic, their web search, all that, they're getting a great deal of SEO for free out of this. I mean, granted, it's costing them some issues and such, but it's certainly something where they, are getting a lot of traction, a lot of word of mouth over. So, in the end, it could actually be a good thing for them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's a great product. The company has a great product. They'll be fine. But, one thing I've learned, and of course, probably for you youngsters out there, you probably don't realize this, but today we live in a world, cameras are everywhere.
Right.
Phones, drones. There's drones going over your house, dash cams on people's cars.
Yeah.
Even refrigerators have better resolution than the cable news. Like if you have a wireless refrigerator. The whole idea is you are being watched. So what does that lead to?
And you're also being listened to with Alexa and Amazon, Google Home. So we can just shout, "Hey Alexa, set an alarm for whenever." And if people are listening loud enough, it can actually set someone's alarm. It's insane. But yeah, where we're heading to is just privacy is just, it's not like when we were younger. When you and I were younger, nobody had phones and cameras. Before the digital age, you had to pay money to develop your shots. So you wouldn't be clicking away like crazy, in the 80s and 90s. But now today it's just, why not? Boom, boom, boom. Cameras are set up everywhere, whether they're by companies, businesses, schools, governments. They're traffic cams, as you mentioned. People have dash cams in their cars all over their house. So yeah, you never know when you're going to be caught on camera. So
you're exposed. So this is where we go as marketers, how to not be a hotshot. We've gave a couple of quick examples there, but but the fact that you are being watched,
right,
and all that. So you have a brand to it. We talked about branding in the past, branding yourself and branding your business.
Yeah.
Right. So what's some of the things you can do to make sure you're marketing yourself like a hotshot, not like a hotshot.
And not the other way around.
Not the other way around.
I think the first thing is you've got to be aware of your surroundings when you're in a public setting of any sort, because it boils down to, who you are as a person, right? If you're the type of person that you're really nice in front of the camera and nice when people are there, and then you're mean when you think nobody's looking, that's something I've seen a lot throughout the years of people, they think nobody's looking, and that's when they start doing things, and it gets caught on camera or somebody notices it, and then it just blows up in their face.
You know, and a great example is some people say, oh, wait, it's like a tweet, like on X.
Yeah.
It's going to go away. Well, this post is going to go away. There's been cases that a tweet will resurface from like 2011.
Right.
And it hurt somebody from getting a job, like their dream job. Because, you know, as a recruiter, we do our due diligence. We go back. We screen our candidates like to no avail. And social media is one of those places that I always look. I look at all platforms when I look at candidates. You know, I'm looking for a gotcha. So as a candidate, or even as a business owner, what would you, you know, would you recommend doing a little scrub there? You know, making sure that you go through all your accounts, because you never know.
We recommend every quarter or at least every half year that you go through your social media profiles, your personal and your business ones, just to see if there's anything there that doesn't reflect your current brand. So, you know, we can talk about the people going on spring break, going on vacation, the embarrassing stuff. But even, you know, your company's vision may have changed. Your company's products may have changed. Even your design and brand colors may have changed. So that's something to just even think about in terms of an audit as well. But staying with the theme of how not to be a hotshot, you know, you do want to look and see what you're posting, what you're sharing, and if there's stuff that doesn't portray you in the best light, take it down. You know, your coworkers could be seeing it, your clients could be seeing it.
So one thought I always had, you know, we had an election last year, right?
Yeah.
I've witnessed quite a few small businesses that lost 30% of their revenue. 30, you know, why? Because they voiced their opinion about a candidate, which, you know, people get into it too much a little bit, I think.
Right.
But that, again, that's a negative spin. And what happens there, you're not a hotshot when you're creating negativity on social media.
Exactly. And I mean, I see people like that all the time, especially as you mentioned around election time, where what they're saying is just completely unprofessional. It's very, very negative. I won't get into the details of how people post stuff, but you and I had conversation about someone a couple of years ago too, that you're like, I had to unfollow or I had to block that person because they were just too negative. Anger. Yeah. And that's not how you want to portray yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Because remember, everybody's looking.
Yeah.
What do you have? You know, it's for everybody out there. And I know we focus a lot on small business owners and even enterprises, but even individual solopreneurs. If you're you're an IT person or an accountant working for a large company or a startup, we're all CEOs of ourselves at the end of the day. And how we perceive to the public is important, you know. And you know, everyone does funny stuff. You know, I do my harmonica videos. I don't give a damn. You know, people laugh. I'm a crappy harmonica player, you know. But hey, that's the whole. Right? But hey, that could hurt me too, because you know what? No bands will ever hire me now because they say I'm terrible at the harmonica.
Well, the other thing too is it's how you react to what's out there too. So like one of the mistakes that the people did at the Coldplay concert was that when the camera went on them, they separated and acted, you know, they drew more attention to themselves. If they just like continue to sway or canoodle, whatever the word that I saw in all the articles, but they were holding each other. I think if they had just smiled and they would have moved on to somebody else, most people would have never even realized it wouldn't have been a public thing. But because of one of them ducked from the camera, the other one covered his face, it drew more attention to the situation. And, you know, if you just sat there and played it off that, hey, you know, we both are fans of the band. We decided to just hang out. Like, it's no different than you and I hanging out. Of course, we wouldn't be holding each other that way.
No way. That's only for Heather. But yeah.
But I mean, like, you know, you and I go to concerts together and we hang out. And if like a camera went on you and I, we would just be like waving to it, whatever. They got caught in a moment that they didn't want people to know what they were doing.
You know, Coldplay and Chris Martin really egged it on.
He did.
I loved it. Ooh, look at these two. Either they're having an affair or they are just shy. You know, and that's like you hear that over and over on TikTok videos now.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is when something bad happens like that, it could blow up. And that's the thing where you have to, as a CEO of yourself, you always have to realize that. Even if I, down the street and somebody catches me singing some opera song and somebody, videos me, or it's on some dash cam, I'm never going to do that ever because I don't sing opera. But think about that. Everything you do is going to be is somewhere recorded.
And it's one of those things where I think damage control is really important. So, like let's say we've all driven in traffic here in Massachusetts. Our reactions to other drivers can always be not always the most positive thing, but if you sit there and try and hide it like what they did, they're trying to like make it look like it didn't happen. Sometimes you just own up to it and just be like, you know what, we got caught up in the moment. It was a mistake. We had a little too much to drink. Sorry, we didn't mean to do that. It was whatever. And then like the discussion ends. It's when people try to like lie their way through it.
Yeah.
So like, for example, let's say you're at a restaurant and you're talking to the waiter there, and you and the waiter getting in an argument. It gets heated. You're yelling. People record
You're on TikTok right
there.
there.
Because the phones are going to come out when you start yelling. And what happens is that, things get more heated. You say some things that maybe you didn't want to have the whole world hear. And as that stuff gets posted, people, will start forming opinions and all that other fun stuff begins happening. But where you have to bring it in is just to sit there and say, look, I got caught up in the moment. I got upset. This is the reason that I got upset. The waiter did this. They messed up my order. Someone in our party is allergic to nuts, and they put nuts in the brownies that we bought or whatever it is, the dessert. However you want to, but you need to go in and explain what happened and why, and not make it a big deal. And just be like, yeah, you know what? I screwed up. I'm sorry. Owning up to it. I mean,
well, for
that situation, it's a little different.
That guy lost quite a lot of money.
Right.
And so think about everyone's going to lose $50 million or whatever the heck he's going to lose, but they'll lose. But let's land that plane. I know we could talk about this all day, right? Hotshot tactics. Tactics. What do you think?
The first tactic is something you and I both mentioned a couple of times, which is that always assume that you're on camera.
Yeah. You make sure your hair looks good, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure your hair looks good because you're always on camera.
You will.
Yeah. That's a big one. How about another one? What's another great tip? James, we're on a roll today.
Well, as we talked about earlier, review your digital footprint every quarter. Go in and see what you've posted. Does it still reflect your values, your goals, what you're trying to accomplish? I mean, a lot of times, too, to get a little bit more detail into this, is that, sometimes you take on a new role and things that were very important to you in your old role may not be as important to you now, and they may not reflect, or your views and attitudes may have changed. So like, let's say you work in the corporate sector and you have a bunch of viewpoints related to that, and then you move over to the nonprofit sector and your viewpoints have changed, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You may have a certain view of large companies, and then you start working for one, and then you feel differently once you're there, and you don't want to have those anti-big company thoughts.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Out on social.
So here, another one, you talked about your digital footprint. One thing I want to add like a 2A to that one is watch it when you get tagged from other people's posts too.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one because you never know what they're doing. Because remember, they're adding to your reputation, right? And that leads to the next tip about setting private boundaries.
Exactly.
So let's expand on that one a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the tips that we always give people is to create, a ghost account or a separate channel for things that you're experimenting with. So, you're going in, maybe you're doing some research, you don't want to go in as yourself. This happens in Reddit all the time. People may have an issue, a personal issue that they want to send out to the community, and they'll call it a throwaway account on Reddit, but they'll post the issue. It could be, an issue with a family member or their relationship or with their job. And
I mean, it's still out in a public internet forum.
Right.
You always still have to remember that. But
yeah.
And then to kind of, the last one, what if a crisis does happen?
Yeah.
hey, Coldplay, buddy,
Yeah.
former Coldplay fan there. I bet he's not a big Coldplay fan anymore. But what do you do? Like
Well,
if you're in a crisis?
yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we said earlier, which is you really got to factor in your damage control on that. You know, take responsibility and accountability. It's kind of like when you're in any argument. You know,
Yep.
you're arguing with somebody and they keep telling you the same thing. You did this, and then finally you're just like, look, you're right. I screwed
Yeah.
up. I'm sorry. They don't have anything else to say. Like once you've said,
Damage is done.
Yeah,
Damage
I mean,
is done.
and then you have to go back and fix it. Like we
Yeah.
have a rule at JVF, like the way we handle stuff. When someone makes a mistake, it's like, all right, let's fix it. If it's something internal, then we handle it internally. If somebody does makes a mistake and it impacts a client, we fix it or at least figure out what we need to do to fix it. We inform the client.
Yep.
And keep them posted because like what happens is you don't want someone to call you and be like, oh, someone told me a week ago our site was down, and it's like, oh yeah, we didn't know about it. You don't want to be that person. You want to take accountability. You want to let them know. So it's you always want to stay ahead of the damage.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And then final thoughts. So I'll throw one first, and you go to the second one, right? Listen, we don't have to be a saint. We've
Right.
all been there, done that, right? We've all had situations. Hey, we grew up in the '80s. Big hair, spandex. I'm sure. I don't know if. Good thing there was no social media back then, right? As marketers, our brand is built on reputation. We're on rep. It's all about that.
Yeah.
Behavior is marketing, even when you're off duty.
Right.
Right. So what's another one? I kind of talked about that first one there.
Well, one of the things too is that marketing isn't just what you're saying; it's what people see and think about you, even when you're not around. So the key is that you want to be memorable, but you want to be memorable for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. So.
Yeah, exactly. You want to remember sort of stuff. So, in this episode might have made a few people cringe, but at the end of the day, it means you care. You got to care, right, about your reputation. So I want to talk about subscribing. So you got to catch Market Like a Hotshot on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And we also have YouTube videos if you want to see our beautiful faces, right, on the JVF Solutions YouTube channel and also the AMC Business Solutions YouTube channel. So let's see. Let's end this here. What do you say? The last statement, and we're shutting down right here.
So stay sharp, stay honest, and market like a hotshot.
Market like a hotshot. Have a great day.